I'm Daniel, I'm an alcoholic. Yes, what a truly terrifying and nervous situation I find myself in now. But it's a good nervous, it is an exciting nervous. It's an opportunity for myself to tell my story because that's literally all I have. And hopefully someone can take something out of it. You know, it's a little moment there with the reading. I found myself like obsessing a little bit about what to say, but at the end of the day, I came to a conclusion that all I have is a daily reprieve. To live one day at a time and to do what I can do to the best of my ability to stay clean and sober, and that's exactly what the reading said there. My first drink was at age like 12, 13, and I was still in primary school. And I remember that it changed who I felt, and it changed sort of like who I was. I remember diving on the grass, it was like dewy, and diving on the grass thinking that I'm Joos van der Westhuizen. Nothing came of it, and I didn't really realize how alcohol would affect me, and I carried on through primary school, into high school. Drinking, like I didn't drink a lot at a young age. It was actually when I went to university where it started, but the defects and the behavior that I had has been there always, in looking in hindsight. Like I came into recovery and I learned that it's the behavior and me as a person is the problem. And looking back, I can see that the dishonesties that I had. But one event that I really remember in primary school, or in high school, that scared me was the school rugby team won a trophy, and we had a party at the house, and I drank quite a lot that night. And I got in a Pick n Pay trolley on top of a hill where all the guys and the girls were standing there, and I felt like, okay, I need to be funny. I have this personality where it's attention seeking, or I'm humorous, but at this stage I was completely drunk and wasted that I got into a Pick n Pay trolley and I went down a hill on a tar road thinking that it would be funny. I remember having a drag of my cigarette and looking back at the people and just going down this hill. It's only like halfway that I realized I can't really steer this thing. And I slowly went towards the side, and obviously I fell, and it took away like half of my face. It just like scratched everything off. And I had no thought of what the consequences could be or the damage that I could cause to myself. The tar road also goes down, and then there's another road crossing like this, and it makes a bump there, so it would be very dangerous. There could be traffic there coming. Just no thought of the consequences, just action and trying to be funny or whatever it was that I did, crazy things, you know. That night when my parents came and picked me up, I also lied about what I drank. I still admitted that I drank, and I said, no, I drank ciders, but I mean, I was drinking hard liquor, and that's clear to me how that changed me and the dangerous situation that I put myself in. Multiple vehicle accidents where I would get in an accident and then completely just lie afterwards. Just make up some bullshit story about what happened. Like, we went out, this was in university. I completed matric. I did quite well. I'm so undisciplined that my father stepped up to the plate, and he sort of like guided me through my school and made me, he called it the Gos methode. It's gat op stoel. You sit op your stoel and you study. That's what you do. Hard work, and that gets you. I believe that myself, I was so undisciplined, I needed that help to make me achieve certain results which made me qualify for medical school. So I went into university and into medical school, and that's really when the drinking picked up. With that freedom of going to varsity and being able to do whatever I like, go with friends who's also studying. Every night we would go out, and it would be Monday, different, like Hatfield, or it at that time was like at Menlyn Square, and then Tuesday would be at Hatfield, and Wednesdays would be at Lalapalam, Thursdays would be at Safari, Friday would be back at Hatfield, Saturday, like every single night, not keeping in mind that I have to study the next day and give my all for that. But anyway, having said that, so I went to this place called Safari, and drank and got wasted. And I remember getting into the car afterwards. I had this brown Toyota Corolla, also known as the Poof. Sat in the car, and all my friends got in, and I put the car in reverse. It was on gravel road, like little rocks road. I reversed out and I went forward, and the wheels started spinning, but I'm unable to control the vehicle at that stage, so I drove into the fence. But it's like a cane fence with solid poles in between, so the vehicle hit those poles and it just took the side of the car, it smashed it completely. But I was so keen to go from Safari to Hatfield that I just carried driving on. It's only recently, probably about 2 weeks ago, that I realized the people that was with me in the car, I endangered their lives. I never thought about that. It's all about me, and that's selfish, like what I want to do. I want to go from here to there, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Anyway, so I got out, and as I got onto the road, the car made this funny sound, ka-cluck, ka-cluck, ka-cluck. And eventually I stopped at the robot to get out, and Murphy's Law, the police stopped right behind me. And I got out and I started talking to them, and they asked me, what car is it? What car was it? And I said, it was a Golf. And they said, what color? And I said, it was a white Golf. And my other friend was drunk, and he came out and he said, yeah, it was a white Golf, and he came from the left and he bumped me, but my bump was on the right hand side, and I just shut him down immediately. And I said, yeah, no, it was a white Golf. He came into me, he bumped me, and he drove off. And the cops got on the radio and they said, listen, hit and run on Linwood Road, white Golf. And I was like, sweet, I'm out. So I went to the police station and I had to draw this picture of me driving and a fake car bumping into me, and I got away with it. No consequences at all. My father enabled me, and he helped me fix the vehicle, and there I was off. Another accident where I put someone else's life at risk is it's almost at a time where there was World Cup rugby, I think 27 that stage, where I had a Ford Bantam, and we came from town, the Dorp, Hatfield, and I decided it would be a good idea to go rally driving around the streets and make I always wanted to be a rally driver. I just want to go fast. And I went around, and I eventually came into an accident where the front wheel of the car was entered into the car, and the car was just damaged. My friend was on my side, and I remember making the accident. My point is, I remember making the accident, looking towards my friend and saying, are you fine? And he said yes, and I said, it was a Jack Russell. And he looked at me. I said, a Jack Russell ran in front of me, and I swerved out, and I bumped it, and that was the accident. So people started arriving at the scene and asked what happened, and I said, no, this dog ran across the road, and I bumped the vehicle, and they believed it. A guy who lived close by came up, asked what happened. I said, no, a dog ran in front of me. He said, a dog? I said, yes. He said, no, it's not dogs. This is the 4th accident in 2 weeks. It's Dassie. A Dassie is a small animal that lives on the mountains, this brown furry animal. And I said, I told you, something ran in front of me. Went to the police station, and I had to draw little Dassies. I don't even know how to draw a Dassie. But I remember giving them horns. And I drew a pack. Not just one, a herd of Dassies ran in front of me. And that's how I made the accident. And as I said, it's only later on doing the program and learning about how I and my behavior caused damage to the people around me, and even put people's life at risk. I would minimize the amount of consequences of my actions, and I just caused destruction at the end of the day, like the big book says, like a tornado. That's how I lived. I truly did not care what anybody said. It was about at university, at about my 2nd year, I got introduced to a pharmaceutical substance. The last time, that's quite important for me, quite important part of my story is the last time I drank is on the 28th of July, basically a year and a half ago. What are we now, 29? So 2017. Because last year's 2018, the year before that, 28th of July, where my sobriety date now is the 9th of Jan. So that was when I got introduced to this pharmaceutical substance that's prescribed for what I believed I had to the inner core, I believed, self-diagnosed, I had attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. And that's just when I believed that I needed this drug or something outside of myself, this chemical substance to make me perform better, like a performance-enhancing drug. And throughout university, I slowly and gradually started using that, as well as other illegal drugs. And I failed. And I failed year in medicine. I failed my third year. I failed a block in my fifth year as well. So it's amazing. It truly is amazing to me how I could believe that it made me do so well, but when I look back, I can see that it really didn't work. It really didn't work, but I truly believe that. I don't have no idea where I went with this. Yeah, so I continued with that substance and other, how can I say it, other personality or other emotional things that I felt. I got diagnosed with other disorders, and I ended up being on antidepressants, on mood stabilizers, on those two, and then on the Ritalin, on the ADHD. Sorry for mentioning substances, like I haven't done this a lot, so something might slip out. So on the Ritzy, and then I believed I needed it. Hey, when I came into recovery, or would I say when I accepted to go to get help, was a morning that my sister came into the room and she said to me, Buddha, can we get help for you? And I remember her standing with a McDonald's bag. Because if you woke me up in the morning, you needed to feed me. That's how arrogant and how, like, if you wake me, I needed food. Something I struggle with as well is like discipline, like I mentioned. But that day, when she came in and she offered help, I accepted it and I went to a treatment center in Pretoria. What scared me about that is the fact that they added an antipsychotic that day, where they were going through my history and everything and all the substances that I used, and they added an antipsychotic, and I couldn't believe that I'm going down this road. Like, I didn't believe that I was in psychosis, so I needed an antipsychotic drug, a drug that's prescribed for someone with schizophrenia. I couldn't grasp that. I couldn't be like, I'm not a schizophrenic, why am I getting this? So I stayed there for 14 days or 2 weeks, and the counselor who worked at the treatment center came to the house on the hill for a month of training, and she suggested to me that I come to the house on the hill for my behavior. And I remember going onto the internet and looking if there's like fly fishing dams and golf courses. I remember in the beginning all I wanted to do was just play golf, but that's not what it was about at the end of the day. So I said yes. I was then also on a severe high amount of medication. Despite the high amount that I was on, that I believed I needed, I went and I prescribed medication for myself. So I would go to pharmacy after pharmacy, walking in there, prescribing medication for myself. I would create fake Pieter van Wyk. Pieter van Wyk is a very famous guy. He's not alive. I don't know who's Pieter van Wyk, but that's who I was. Pieter van Wyk and Pietertjie. And he was very well known in Pietermaritzburg because I lived there at a stage. I just go to any pharmacy. I know places like Hillcrest, Maritzburg, Durban, Pretoria, Strand, Gordons Bay, because I know where the pharmacies are. So I would go from place to place and prescribe the medication that I needed. It's crazy. So, I accepted and I came to the house up in the hill, flying high on chemical substances and fully dressed in camo. Because the consequences that I got in active was I got fired from the hospital. I got retrenched. Actually, not proud of this at all. I became absent from work, lying about what really happened with me or what's going on for me. I remember faking that I broke my leg, so I built a cast for myself. And I arrived at work on crutches with like a fake broken leg. I mean, that's just insane. Yeah, so I got, I don't even know where I'm went with that as well. But, yeah, I got fired from that. So at the end of the day, I started like a hunting business on the farm. I loved it on the farm. It was an opportunity for me to isolate and to do what I want. I had a drink for every certain hour of the day. If it is early morning, it would be a Bosveld coffee. It would be a certain type of drink. And only in hindsight can I see this, but that's how I went through it. Late at night when it's hunting jackal or bush pig or whatever, it would be OBS. Sorry for naming the name again, but it would warm me up. And then, of course, other substances on top of that. So I arrived at the house fully dressed in camo watch, camo everything. And believing that I am this hunter who has a successful hunting farm. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot. I made the best of it, what I seemed to be success. But I was unmanageable. The way I did it and the way I went about my finances is ridiculous. Talking about finances, getting my first salary in medicine, my first 6 or whatever, when I got the first 6, you get this credit rating where you can go get debt. And what I did with that is I bought like a 2014 Polar Edition Jeep Wrangler, who when I V6, when I like revved it, the bonnet will just lift up like this. It was my dream car. No way on earth I could afford it. It's the bank's car. And on top of that, this is how I could see the insanity. On top of that, I went and I bought a house. We're even discussing that with my wife. I remember coming home and tuning in like, listen, I bought a house. So I came in a severe amount of debt, financially unmanageable, couldn't manage that. Yes, my whole life is unmanageable, and I accept that and I admit that, and I'm powerless. But for me, it's clear with regards to finances how unmanageable I was. So yeah, I arrived full camo. I remember I couldn't sleep the first night. First night I could not sleep because I stole the medication from the pharmacy as well at the clinic where I was in Pretoria. I took it and I took a lot with me. And then when I entered the rehab, I saw, okay, what's going on here. So I had a lot of medication on me and I took all the drugs and I couldn't sleep that night. I remember begging for a tablet or something that I could sleep. And eventually I got a half. That night, and that's where it stopped, the rest of the time. Because I was never prescribed something that would make me sleep at night. So I had a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of insomnia. No, I say insomnia, a lot of sleepless nights where I didn't sleep, where I go day after day, spending time on the laptop, isolating and working on promoting and this farm hunting business that I had. That's slowly how things started for me getting into the house up the hill, and I started learning about the disease. I learned that it's the disease. It baffles me as well how I worked in the field, but I didn't know that it was a disease, and yet I didn't know that I had it. We had the diagnostic criteria for certain disorders, but I never saw it as a disease, the disease of alcoholism. And that's where it started, by doing my steps and taking on paper. Doing the steps on paper to the best of my ability, and I could clearly see how powerless and how unmanageable it is by certain things that I messaged here, what I said here. And then going on to the steps, and I learned that my behavior through concern groups, I got concerned a lot. I spent a lot of time up at the house on the hill. I'm back there now. The longest period for me is when somebody raised their hand and they say, I have a concern for, until they say my name. That period there. Because I know it's coming, or someone's getting it, or what. I got concerned a lot for my behavior. I was a very angry and aggressive person, and a very putting up walls and boundaries so that no one could come close to me, no one can really see how I feel. I pushed people away. That was the first thing that came. And then I deflected a lot with humor. I have a lack of insight of how my behavior could damage people around me. I would deflect a lot of humor, and I hurt a person who's very close to me currently, who's also in the fellowship, and I made a comment and it hurt his feelings, and that I realized, and I could see, okay, my humor is very dangerous. I need to be aware of certain jokes that I make to people or about people or whatever. The consequences started piling up. I was washing pots for 6 weeks. I remember washing pots on my birthday, where they made a cake for me and I didn't want the cake because I knew I had to wash the pots afterwards. The consequences just came. Game span, I wanted to isolate and play games. My behavior was just all over the place. The story here would be where the house leader was at the office, and when I want something I wanted now, like I said, she was at the office and I wanted to ask someone something in the office, and she said to me, "Shh," and she put her hand like this up in my face. And I got so angry. I got like Goku, like fire, what? I'm so angry. And by that stage, I was concerned about it, so I was aware that I had the anger. I was aware I shouldn't get angry, so what I did is I walked away. I went down towards the coffee station area and made tea or get a cool drink or coffee. And when I walked back, she walked towards me, towards this side. And that's when I lashed out at her. The moment I lashed out at her, the consequences started coming, and I realized I was in deep trouble. Guys called me out saying that it's not right speaking to a lady like that. Completely unaware of my behavior. And I remember breaking down that day and speaking to my sponsor, and I was told, like, you give other people so much power over your emotions. Further on I learned how to get rid of my defects. The only way that I personally can get rid of my defects is to go on my knees and ask God to remove my defects, so that I could be of service to Him. That's probably the only thing that makes me feel better these days. For a long time is helping someone else, truly sharing something with someone else, or listening to them, or sharing my experience. Seeing people recover is something majestical to me in this program. Seeing how people come in and they start to see the light after a few months, or after a few days, or after a few weeks, or they start detoxing like I did, and you can see that little bit of sunshine coming into a person, that soul. I can see in myself and in other people sometimes. People can definitely see it in me. Especially what I'm going through with my personal things, is that little bit of light that I get and that people get, and I love that about recovery. I love seeing people recover and being able to share something, and that light just comes up for that person. So that's how I get rid of my defects. I just go on my knees and I say, listen, please take my defects away so that I can be of service to you and do your will. That's what I learned up in the rehab, up in treatment. Went on after a while, after all the concerns and everything that went on for me, I managed to detox. So those behavior was still there, but I remember making it a primary thing for me after discussing it with my sponsor, who I'm very grateful for. Looking back now, it's perfect how we handled it, being me, and perfect how we went about it, of getting off the medication. Made it a primary purpose to get off drugs, to get off any pharmaceutical or any chemical substance in order to move forward from this. So I managed to stop. I managed to get a detox system and follow that. And I got my first white chip, and I was like, okay, this is a start. 7 days later, or something like that, I went and I did a duty in the room, in the TV lounge, and I walked back and I bumped my foot up against the couch. It really injured my toe. That gave me a lot of time in the nursery, the nurse's station. And while being there, I started building this relationship with this nurse, and I started gaining a trust, which enabled me to manipulate her into giving me more medication. So I manipulated and I stole medication from the pharmacy in a rehab where I am to get better from this disease. That's where I learned how cunning, baffling, and powerful this disease is. That I'm completely powerless. I have no intention of certainly messing up my progress, because I was doing this to save the marriage. To mess up my progress, but I'm completely powerless. That's what I realized I did. After a few days, I stole sleeping tablets as well from that. I went on. That was a very defining moment for me. Oh, and then I wanted to take the car. That's mad. So I spent time there, and I saw the keys, and I had this idea of running away. But I'm really too proudful to walk down the driveway. Like, I want to go out in style, so I wanted to take the vehicle. And a guy was living in the nurse's station. he stepped in dog poo, made the floor dirty, and the nurse asked me to clean it up, and obviously I'm the first one there because I'll be able to see what's going on. So I started cleaning up, and I saw the car keys. And I took the car keys and I put it in my pocket and I exposed it to another guy, and he just got this big shock. That's when I realized, oh my word, I'm in deep trouble. It's only afterwards I realized making my own prescriptions, stealing a car is grand theft auto, making my prescriptions is fraud. I used to add tax on people that hunted with me to their invoice to get more money. That's fraud. I really truly didn't think about it. But yeah, that's when I learned how powerful this disease is and how unmanageable and powerless I am. So after about 2 months, it got suggested to me, 2 or 3 months, it got suggested to me to stay longer, till the end of January that year, last year. And I agreed to stay longer. The main reason there was connecting to the damage that I caused my family, that I caused my wife, and the lack of insight that I have of how my behavior and what I do affects other people. I agreed to staying longer. Went on, I remember a specific concern group towards the end of that was not about the chicken. It's not about the chicken. We had this braai, and I wanted to braai with someone, and people were braaiing with me, and I wanted to do the chicken my way. And like, yeah, it's crazy. I wanted to make, because you got to put it on and let it go slow. And I just wanted to do it my way. And at the end of the day, I got concerned for not being a part of and doing things my way. And I just remember that last going, it's not about the chicken. It's about my behavior. It's about how I affect other people. And I managed to get through that period as well. My father applied for me to go back into medicine, to go work at Witbank Hospital. And it's quite I don't like to look back at my journey and think what change should have happened here. My journey is my journey, and I'm at where I'm at. But I decided to go out in the beginning of Jan, fully willing and wanting to go back. And I relapsed 7 days later. 7 days later, I relapsed after spending 4 months up at the house. That also scared me. That scared me that morning when I relapsed, I just made a decision to steal, first of all, to steal money from my father's wallet, because that's how I got the money to pick up. But yet on my way down to the hospital, I had a phone call with my sponsor discussing what I'm about to do, but I already had a dishonesty earlier, which I didn't expose, didn't get honest about that. Guilt and shame of having to just say, listen, I did this, and give the money back or work around it. I couldn't expose that. So I remember sitting in the hospital, and my last thought was, all I need to have now is patience. Patience and the power of spiritual principles is really something that I see as my higher power these days. And that day I didn't have patience. I got up from there and I went to a pharmacy, I prescribed myself, and I relapsed. I relapsed and started using one or the other. Looking back, I could see that I intended to use, because I know the pharmacological effect of it, and I said, okay, I'm going to take one tablet now and a certain amount later, and I'm going to manage it like this. By the end of the day, I took a whole sleeve. The amount of medication I took that day could easily cause a heart attack. I could easily have killed myself. And relapse, I went to the farm. There's this area on the farm where it's very beautiful looking out. I call it the vlei, it's like wetlands, where the cows are. And looking down, sun setting, beautiful scene. I felt empty in my heart. I felt completely godless. Like God was with me, but definitely not in me. And that's what I felt. I felt this void, and I never want to have that feeling again. That feeling is really one of the strongest feelings I have to this day, together with the consequence of coming back and going at this again, to do this, to stay clean and sober one day at a time. So that's when I phoned and exposed it. I exposed it to my sponsor, and I asked whether I should come back, and it was said that coming back means acceptance. So I knew, from that day on, I knew the physical action of me coming back means that I accept that I have a disease. It was something, it's a very intellectual way, if I can put it that way, to think about it or to go about it, but I knew the action that I'm putting in now means acceptance. One sentence to get me on an aeroplane from Pretoria to here. Just one sentence. The addict and the alcoholic that I am, something that powerful to make me do it and be like, okay, that's bow to me. And I came back, and from there on, I knew how it all worked. I didn't have to do the steps again. I was willing though. I was willing to do whatever it takes. I asked if I should, but I really did do the written part of the steps to the best of my ability the first time. So I came back, and from there on it started. I just followed suggestions from there on. I did 2 months. It was suggested to me to work at a volunteer at the SPCA down in Scotland, where there's no animals there. There's no animals here, guys. So very humbling to go and just be of service and work at the SPCA and give something back. I did that for 3 months. Awesome routine I had there, waking up not early in the morning, waking up when I needed to wake up, 6 o'clock for early or whatever. And then coming back, going to meetings, sharing what's going on for me, and just doing as I'm told. I did that for about 3 months. Then the person who was in the halfway house, because it was suggested to me to go down to the halfway house, always something that I was willing to do from the beginning. I knew something had to be different. I was willing to go down to the halfway house. Someone who worked at the halfway house left, and the position opened up, and I started working as a waiter. Always also very humbling. Working there, night shifts was very difficult for me. Not busy during the day. But I was willing to go to any lengths. I was really willing to do as I'm told. I knew if I do as I'm told, I knew that I would be sitting here. I knew it. The first time I saw someone share was when the meeting was up at the Blue Mall, and the person shared, and I remember sitting in the meeting thinking, one day I will sit here 1 year. I've had that feeling. I had that feeling that one day I will sit here. I relapsed then. And then I just know, doing as I'm told, I will be safe. As difficult as it is. As difficult as it might be, I know that doing as I'm told and going against my head, I will make this one day at a time. So from there on, in recovery, what I've learned that it's about relationships. I've learned that it's about loving other people and allowing other people to love me. I learned that I need to stay humble. I need to get vulnerable. I need to remain teachable. I need to ask, listen, and do as I'm told. I knew I would be sitting here because I could see other people are sitting here, and they did as they were told. It was also suggested to me about 6 or 7 months in, where the applications to go back to hospital this year currently opened up, and it was suggested to me not to even apply. Something that I really wanted to do. Didn't make sense to me not to apply, not to even see where they placed me and make a decision from there on. But I just asked and I listened and I did as I was told. Then, I always want to be somewhere where I'm not. I feel that I should look for a better job or get something, and I applied to work at a place here up in Park Rennie, where I was going to have a vehicle and drive and look at building sites where people fit in glass and aluminium windows. And I worked closely with my sponsor with this, and we decided to go for it, having a backup plan. If it doesn't work out, I go back and I work, and I lasted 1 day. I lasted 1 day because I just couldn't do it. I remember that day was not the best days of my life, and I couldn't do it, but I really worked closely. I went back the following day. I went about it the right way, something that also changed me, because I would just stay away from work. I would not care about the work or the job. I would just stay away. So I went back that day, and I really explained myself, and I went with my tail between my legs back to the waitering position, and I just carried it on through from there. So then what I've learned as well is not to have expectations and to really do this for myself. The first chapter that I read in the book was the chapter 2 Wives, because I came in married. Definitely consequences that I shouldn't be married today. I can see my part in those things, and I'm grateful for that. But I came in with that hope that my marriage will be safe and saved. And that was the first chapter that I read. No idea where I wanted to go with this. So what I've learned is to not have expectations. that I can do this one day at a time, but life will change and certain things will happen that I have no control over it. I've learned that I need to do this for myself as well. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to learn to love myself, willing to listen how to love myself, willing to learn that relationship with God. Something that I'm working on, something that I need to learn how to do, because I don't have, maybe it's my perception, I don't know, but it's something that I'm willing to build on. I believe that it's a daily thing that I need to work on, and I'm willing to learn that. So I've learned not to have expectations. On the 23rd of last month, just before Christmas, she told me that she would like to get a divorce, and she would like to, because her feelings changed. So the first thing I was also thinking was like, change it back, you know, like just change it back. If it changed, like change it back. But working closely with my sponsor, seeing my part in everything, live and let live what I've learned. I can love her enough. I know enough about my amends towards her, and I can love it enough to let that go. Yet I can't deal with that pain. Struggled with it. I was still up at the halfway house, and from the moment that happened and that sinked in, I had no one around me. Because I worked day shift, no night shift, I was alone during the day. My head started racing. I had thoughts that's not like really how I wanted it to be, if I can put it that way. That scared me. That scared me because I relapsed, and I just looked for people to be around. So I reached out, and I'm currently back up at the same treatment center where my journey started. And it's been amazing. I sat in this meeting and I shared how my pain levels were 104 out of 10 and what feelings I went through. And like I sit here, guys, probably like a 2 out of 10 or 1. Being able to get that amount of love and being around people and being able to help and get vulnerable, that's what it's about for me. That's all I have. I had a house, I had a car, I had the job, I had the wife. That's my reality. I had it all, yet still I went and I did certain things because I had this void. I'm an alcoholic. I have the disease of alcoholism. In order to survive this, I need to rely on someone else's perspective. And I made the decision to go back. And I'm willing and I'm excited to see where it goes through from here. That's also what I love about this program. I can go through anything. It's another thing that is my grandmother passed away this year. I can go through anything, and I see now there's be tough times, but I don't need to drink or use on that. I've learned now there's other ways to go about it. But what I also love is that hope. That little bit of hope that I can sort of see, okay, I don't know where this is going, but I have trust and I have faith in this together with commitment, perseverance, determination, patience, acceptance, tolerance over other people. Like I said, my higher power for me that I connected to was spiritual principles and trying to live like that on a daily basis. But that little bit of hope that I get by seeing other people doing it, and I just need to trust. And that's what I've been doing. I've been trusting and having faith and trying to find gratitude in my life. That's what I'm getting. I love seeing people recover. I love it up at the house. I truly do. And that's how I'm basically trying to manage what I'm going through currently and my personal situation. I also shouldn't say how I'm trying to manage, how I'm willing to let people help me on how to manage it. But something big that I'm willing to work on is my relationship with God. Because, but for the grace of God, I'm very fortunate to have gone through that thread, meeting that counselor at that treatment center, that she went there, meeting people, doing the program, working the program hard. Sometimes I look at people and I'm like, how the hell do they do this? Just seeing that vigilance, the way that they work it, and that's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to learn that, I'm just a dripple in a bucket. Like I'm just 1 year, I'm still a baby, and I've got a lot to learn. With that comes action that I need to put in. I need to get up and work on my recovery and put in action. Stuff like, simple stuff for me, guys, because I've been given everything in my life. It's stuff like washing my own clothes, stuff like doing my duties, stuff like making food for myself that I do struggle with. I'm very undisciplined. It's simple stuff like that. Just simply learning how to live life on its own terms. Like I said, I don't have materialistic things that I can show you. But I do have 1 year behind me. And I know that following the book, reading the book, and really the answers just jump out of you. There's certain stories in there which I can relate to. It speaks a lot about the God concepts. It's a spiritual program, not religious. So I'm willing to learn and go on and find whatever it is that's out there for me. Because if I truly connect to the fact that I'm an alcoholic and it's a disease, and I accept that, and 3% or certain statistics of people make it, then I would do whatever it takes. That's the thing. Like, people literally die. When I read death in there, or a certain passage like there's many alcoholics in your community that die from this disease. When I read stuff like that, I'm like, yo, that's deep. If I really connect to the fact that I can die from this, and take that proper step one and doing as I'm told, if I really connect to that, that's my point. I will do whatever. I will do whatever it takes. Because it's a disease. There's people that the disease has taken out. But before I ramble on too much, I would like to express gratitude to my sponsor and to the group. Also, that which I see as a higher power. Gratitude for the love and support of a family. A father who I resent, I don't even go into resentments, but a father who I resent, but yet managed to raise 4 children. 2 of them did medical school, one is like overseas and everything, and yet I resent this person, a person who is giving everything for me, for my recovery. Grateful for that, grateful for my mother, grateful for my sisters, grateful for 1 week I had in this year where I went to go fly fishing in the Drakensberg with my in-laws and make amends. Grateful for them to see me for 7 days, clean and sober. And afterwards, my father-in-law said to me, he wanted to introduce himself to me again, because he didn't know who I was. Grateful for those 7 days to show that I'm different, and I'm trying my best to change. It's about change. Making amends is about change. Changing my behavior, admitting I'm wrong, and then giving back. And at the moment, all I find is I'm willing to give back, and I'm willing to change. And it's been tough, guys. It's been tough. That I need to tell you has been what I learned. Life on life terms has been tough, but I did what I needed to do. I relied on someone else. I relied on just following the way, staying in that boat. God's will, going with the flow of the river and following suggestion and doing whatever it takes. God's will for me is doing whatever I need to do to stay clean and sober. And I believe help others. Don't drink, don't use, don't run, help others. I like to add that 4th one, because I cannot drink, not use, not run, sit and lock myself up in a room, but I'll still feel like I feel. The only thing that I would like to add there is to help others. That has helped me. It's awesome. I'm so happy this is over. Thanks for letting me share.